Bondi, Bondi's hearing. Oh my goodness, Bondi's hearing. Take a look at this.
So, Attorney General, would you agree that it is important for law enforcement leaders to be honest?
Of course, as well as members of Congress.
Thank you. And would you include yourself as a law enforcement leader?
Of course.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. You know, President Trump has also, he has referred to himself as the chief law enforcement officer of this country. So do you believe that President Trump is honest?
He is the commander-in-chief of the United States of America, and not only is he keeping this country safe, he is keeping this world safe.
It's a simple question, which you didn't answer.
He is the commander-in-chief.
Last June, Minnesota lawmaker Melissa Hortman, her husband Mark, and their dog were brutally murdered in their home. And your USA's office in Minnesota investigated this crime and obtained a 6-count indictment of the murder suspect, stating that he had intent to kill, injure, harass, and intimidate Minnesota legislators. And I have the copy right here. I read through it. Yet a few weeks ago, President Trump suggested publicly that Minnesota Governor Tim Walz was behind these murders, posting on his Truth Social account a video raising this conspiracy theory. And it wasn't true. And you know it wasn't true, or else you would not have brought an indictment against the subject.
Questions really quickly of my colleague, Becca Ballant, if she will answer. Right or wrong, raping children?
Wrong.
Right or wrong, killing random citizens?
Definitely wrong.
Right or wrong, enriching yourself as the sitting president of the United States?
Definitely wrong.
Okay, thank you, because I probably never would have got that with our witness. Our witness who somehow is a lawyer but does not understand how it works with witnesses. I'm not really sure what law school she went to and what all kind of cases she tried, but typically when you come into a space and somebody's a witness, then they sit there and they answer questions instead of asking questions. And then we also have this objection that we use as lawyers called non-responsive when a witness fails to actually answer the question. But nevertheless, let me address the survivors, because that's exactly who they are. They are not victims, they are survivors. Let me say thank you for having more courage and moral clarity in your pinky fingers than the entire Department of Justice. We are currently the laughing stock of the world, partially because of the failed leadership within the DOJ, as we see kings and queens falling everywhere around the world. But we don't know the basics of right and wrong in this country, because it's not about partisanship. And that's why I applaud Thomas Massie, because he's the only person on the Republican side that has a backbone and knows how to stand up to corruption. But nevertheless, let me keep going. My Democratic colleagues have been attacked this entire committee hearing. They have been lied on, and frankly, the American people weren't looking for that. They were looking for answers about the corruption that they see coming from this administration. In the written testimony of this witness, of this particular witness, she stated that when she took office, she had two main goals. The first was to end the weaponization of justice, and second, to return the department to its core mission. Not only have you lied about both, you've intentionally done the exact opposite.
Yeah, that actually happened. But Bondi's hearing, it was a disastrous cluster. I don't see how she is still Attorney General. I don't see how she became the U.S. Attorney General when she was not even a decent Attorney General here in the state of Florida. She was a horrible Florida Attorney General. How she became the U.S. Attorney General, I don't know. and Cash Patel. I I don't know. The Senate hearing for Cash Patel, when they when the Senate when the Senate hearings for him were his congressional hearings, and then the Senate hearing, when they went through him, it was it was a freight train wreck. Just watch this. Just watch this.
Memo says you uncovered more than 300 gigabytes of data and physical evidence, but that you had decided no further disclosure would be appropriate or warranted. That is a quote. I think what happened, Mr. Patel, is that suddenly you discovered that Donald Trump's name was all over these files, and you started a giant cover-up. So you are under oath, Mr. Patel. You just testified to Mr. Swalwell that you did not speak to the president about the Epstein files. To your knowledge, did Attorney General Pam Bondi speak to the president about what was in the Epstein files?
I can't speak for Attorney General Pam Bondi.
So to your knowledge, you don't have any information. The question was, do you have any knowledge? Do you have any knowledge?
I can't speak.
You are refusing to answer the question. So let me tell you that the Wall Street Journal reported that in May, Bondi told Trump that he was in the Epstein files, and at the same meeting said that the DOJ did not plan to release the files. Yesterday, you testified to Senator Kennedy that there was, quote, no credible information that Epstein trafficked girls to anyone else, and that you have, quote, continuously and publicly asked the public to come forward with more information, and we'll look into it. Today, in response to Mr. Massey's question, you appear to say that the survivors were not credible. These are survivors.
That's not at all what I said.
Okay, great. I'm going to ask you this in a second, but let me tell you about the survivors, and let's bring them up here into the room. These are women who came to the Hill and testified that they were groomed and raped at the age of 14 and 16 years old, and they called to meet with the president and to meet with the FBI and to have people investigate their claims. Some of them have never testified before. If you are so interested in getting the public to submit any information, why have you not met with them? You said you haven't met with them. Have you met with them? I'll give you one more chance.
My job as the FBI director is to invite all investigative leads. Is the answer yes or no to whether or not you met with these women who were sexually abused and raped? Any insinuation by you or any people on your side that I am not manhunting child predators and sex traffickers, just look at the stats. And you talk about cover-ups, man. Mr. Chairman, you talk about cover-ups. And
I will take as much time as I want.
Where were you during the Obama and Biden administrations when these so-called cover-ups were going on?
Yeah. I mean, damn. I mean, damn. I mean, they couldn't, he couldn't answer any questions. He couldn't answer anything because he didn't have any answers. He didn't know any answers. He was just a stuttering mess. He didn't know anything. And then he was completely, utterly on the defensive because he didn't know what to say. And the Republicans, all they did was just praise. All they did, They didn't ask him any questions. All they did was just paperback, just baby powder his butt. They didn't ask him any questions. And Jim Jordan, oh my goodness, Jim Jordan, all he did was just praise him, and just try to lift him up. It was just saddening. It was a sycophantic. It was horrible. Wayne Mullin, or Mutton Chops, Mullet. I don't know what they're going to do with him. I don't see how he is getting into being the Secretary of Homeland Security. And they're going to put him as the Secretary of Homeland Security, which means you're going to have one less senator. And man that is completely and utterly unqualified. He is less qualified than Kristi Noem. That's like making a Boy Scout the chief of police. If you like my videos, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to SJ-Laws and More. You can also email me at sjlawsandmore@gmail.com. You can also find me on Instagram and Facebook and TikTok. Thank you.